Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar, met with his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, and members of his entourage at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Abuja. The meeting aimed at strengthening bilateral relations between Nigeria and China will also help, according to them, to foster cooperation in key areas such as trade and investment, health, technology, and infrastructure development. Take a listen to some of what came out of that meeting. Don't forget that after that meeting, the Chinese FM also met with the President Bola Tinubu at the State House. Take a listen to both foreign affairs ministers.
Nigeria remains committed to the implementation of the agreements and MOUs, and also, of course, to, just like Minister Wang said, to ensure that we expand this upgraded relationship, which is the comprehensive strategic partnership.
Our cooperation is going well in many ways in terms of finance. For instance, we welcome the panda bonds to be issued. We welcome Nigeria to issue panda bonds in China because we have full confidence in Nigeria's credibility.
All right, that meeting held today, but again, the question you'll be asking, China is perhaps Nigeria's largest export partner. China is perhaps one nation, I think the third or so, that we owe the most in the world. It means a lot in terms of our relation. What is the benefit of all of these to us? If our rail lines, part of our airports are being built by China or Chinese, how much of the benefit is it for our country? I'm being joined tonight by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar, who is live with us virtually in Abuja. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight. Let me begin by first and foremost establishing, is this a follow-up meeting from the China meeting that you and the President had a few weeks ago?
Thank you, Sharon, for having me, and Happy New Year.
In the year.
You know, the relationship is becoming stronger because of these high-level visits. You will recall maybe that I visited China at some time in June in preparation for a state visit. President Tinubu visited in September, and now Minister Wang Yi, the foreign minister, who is not just the foreign minister, but one of 7 members of the standing committee of the Politburo, the highest decision-making body in China, has visited, and he has chosen Nigeria to be the first country for him to visit at the beginning of the year. So it is quite significant, and it is these sort of high-level visits that move things forward and that strengthen the relationship between the two countries.
So, what can you tell us is the biggest deal that came out of this meeting in terms of the agreement? What would you say is perhaps the low-hanging fruit out of this meeting today, and perhaps the biggest of all of the conversation that would be for the benefit of the Nigerian people?
Well, for one, you have the currency swap, Naira Renminbi, that has been renewed. That is very significant because it allows for us to close up any room for arbitrage in trading with each other, with trading currency to currency instead of going through a third currency. And you will recall that when President Bola Tinubu took over as president, one of the actions he took, of course, was to unify the multiple currency exchange windows that we had, which was providing for a lot of room for arbitrage. So that has been closed up. And not only that, we are even pushing further, because our trade volume is, I think, about $23 billion annually. There's more, that goes even undocumented. So the idea is to increase the volume for the swap. At the moment, it's, I think, 15 billion renminbi. We're trying to push it to 100 billion. And then also the usance, so the duration for the swap to be utilized, instead of just 12 months, 1 year, to have it extended to 3 years. So besides that, you also have, of course, several ongoing infrastructure projects. Rail, we're trying to revamp our rail lines, as you know. So there's a firm commitment for Kano, Abuja. Of course, there is Lagos, Ibadan. There's several other projects that are ongoing, rail projects. There's even Kano, Maradi, Niger, incidentally, and also Kano, Jigawa. And that is almost up to 40% completion. Substantial part of the blended financing is coming from China. Sinosure is the export credit agency. That is something that is up for approval in China. We're looking for that. But we're also quite concerned about the trade imbalance, the lopsidedness of it. It's something that we've addressed and we have been pushing, and we have succeeded, for instance, in the removal of tariffs for cashew nuts and shea butter being exported from Nigeria to China. And we're pushing further to say, look, remove tariffs for all other exports from Nigeria, because what China did on the platform of FOCAC, which is the Forum for China-Africa Cooperation, was to remove tariffs for the least developed countries. Nigeria is not considered to be a least developed country in Africa. There are about 33 of them, and we're saying remove all those tariffs for Nigeria so that we can address this issue of a trade imbalance. And not only that, we're also speaking for other African countries. We're saying remove, in fact, what is the big difference between 33 and 55 countries? It's not much. Why don't you remove it for the entire continent? So these are some of the discussions that have been ongoing, apart from collaboration on metals refining. So instead of exporting lithium to China, we're saying refine it here locally. I'm sure you will be aware that there's a Chinese group that invested in metals refining in Nasarawa State, for instance. We want to see more of that. We want to see them utilize our special economic zones to locate their electric vehicle assembling plants here in Nigeria, so that Nigeria can become a hub, since we already even have the lithium that is used for the batteries for the electric vehicles. Let us set up that supply and value chain here, and let us domesticate it.
Now, Minister, I know there are lots to benefit from China, especially when the Chinese today are talking about a global political bullyism and how they will be respectful in terms of foreign relations with other countries. And I'd like to first and foremost confirm with you. I know you've told me on this program that Nigeria seems to be inclined to the membership of BRICS. And China being a major leadership of that group. What is the sentiment? Are those kind of relationship being cemented today as how Nigeria will be officially, formally, and actively be part of the BRICS? Did that also come up as a conversation today?
Yeah, it did. Of course, there's the offer for Nigeria to become a BRICS partner, which is different from being a full-fledged member, but comes, as they say, with all the benefits of membership. So this is something that Nigeria is considering, but of course the decision is up to President Tinubu. President Tinubu, of course, is quite deft at understanding and taking decisions at the right time. He appreciates the intersection of politics and economics. So I'm sure at the right time we will do that. We're also cognizant of the fact that when you say BRICS, you're referring to Brazil, Russia, India, China, and subsequently South Africa. And these are all members of the G20 group. So we're also looking at, of course, joining the G20. We want all those countries to support us. As I would say that all the countries have voiced their support for Nigeria to become a member of the G20. And we have been regular in G20 summits as invited countries, as an invited country. So we're looking at a path where we join G20 since all the members of the key members of the founding members of BRICS are already members of G20. So we can also take the same path, but then we can also consider the offer of being a BRICS partner.
Yeah. So, I mean, there isn't any concrete move as to our permanent membership of BRICS. That is not cemented yet. It's still in progress.
No, that is not cemented yet. This is something that is still being considered. We have to look at all the ramifications and do what is in the best interest of Nigeria. So national interest, lately I've been talking about the Constitution. President swore to uphold the Constitution, as did I, as did all members of a cabinet and the government officials from top to bottom. So national interest is paramount. We have to make sure that when we take decisions, we do it in a timely manner as we get the maximum benefit for Nigeria's national interest.
I hope this time around China is not sitting on the fence on the support for Nigeria to be a permanent member of the Security Council. Are they still sitting on the fence? If they are true friends, they should give us their thumbs up in being a permanent member of the Security Council. Did you push them to get that vote?
We pushed them and they assured us that they're fully behind Nigeria becoming a member. They also assured that they are in support of what is referred to as the Ezulwini consensus, that is saying that Africa should get a minimum of 2 seats in the Security Council of the United Nations, so a permanent seats. So
I know that
we keep saying that we want not just the seats, we want a permanent seat with veto powers. We don't want just a seat, we want a seat with veto powers.
There are those who, some foreign affairs experts who will say, as we are seeking those, we also need to sit up and make ourselves a more world power so that we can not bully our way into, but also make our presence known. But Minister, there are those who are worried about China because China could be very brutal if you are doing business with them. We've seen some countries that are literally having part of their territories taken over by China because they are owing China based on the agreement with some of their infrastructure. A big worry here is a possibility or what has looked like a debt dependency. There are concerns about Nigeria's increasing debt to China. Some of the agreements you have signed today will further deepen our hands into the till of our debt with China. There are those who argue that relationship is getting us more into trouble. Don't forget, China is very brutal. They are like some of our brothers and sisters in some part of the country. They don't play with their money.
Well, the global system where countries operate is brutal. There's no country that is not brutal when it gets the chance to be brutal. That's the honest to God truth. That is why we keep referring to national interest. You have to clearly identify your national interest and protect it and take decisions at the right time. And you will notice that the agreements that we're even talking about are memoranda of understanding. They are not legally binding in the same manner that agreements, concrete agreements, are binding. So it is done in stages so that we're very careful. What we need is that is for the subnational entities, state governments, to also work with the federal government so that we are aware and we work together. We're in tandem when Nigeria is committed to agreements. A large part of the challenges that we've had with agreements in Nigeria have to do with either subnationals committing Nigeria to certain debt obligations, or agreements are not properly. But suffice it to say that compared to other countries, Nigeria is actually quite thorough. Nigeria has the depth, because we have been an oil producing country since 1956, 57, and that inadvertently afforded us the depth in terms of international lawyers, experts, accountants that have worked for world-class accounting firms and other professionals that are good at negotiating. So Nigeria is not a pushover when it comes to international negotiations, and it's not akin to just taking a toy from a child.
All right. So, yeah,
we're also brutal when it comes to protecting our national interests, and so it should be.
So, but are you able to resolve also the embarrassment due to the legal logjam, for example, in Ogun State, and some of, those are embarrassing situations where we have Nigerian properties being threatened by some Chinese interests. Did that also come up? Is there a resolution in that respect?
That has come up also, and we've been pursuing a resolution through diplomatic channels. That's why, if you've noticed, the Chinese side has sort of backed down to some degree, stepped off the pressure. But, it's something, of course, that is an ongoing process, and we'll continue to pursue it.
Now, let's look at the issue of the global and geopolitical dynamics of our foreign relations. Now, how does Nigeria's partnership with China fit into the broader geopolitical landscape, especially in our non-alignment foreign policy, especially considering that there are growing tensions, trade tension, political tension between China and some Western powers?
Well, this visit reaffirms what we keep saying, that Nigeria under President Bola Tinubu is pursuing a strategic autonomy. We have the right to deal with whoever we want to deal with no inhibitions, based on Nigeria's national interests, based on what is best for Nigeria's national interests. That is why it's laughable when some people say that Nigeria is being dictated to by some other country, or that we're going into where we're doing some other country's bidding. Recently there was all this talk about France, and you can see China is here. China came.
But that has not been laid to rest, Minister. This government has not been able to properly put in perspective those allegations coming from the military junta in that country. The heavy allegations against this government under this president's leadership about how terrorists have now been used or allegedly being used on our soil. Has this government had a concrete answer? Is this government working for France against the interests of the Nigerian people?
The government has a concrete answer. I am surprised, in spite of all the media outlets carrying my my article that I sat down and wrote and explained this thing, I'm surprised that a whole Shegun has not read it, because I thought you were always on top of your game. You knew everything that was out there.
I am. Maybe it doesn't suffice. That's why I'm asking, Minister. Now that you have the opportunity, Minister, if you can clear the
I will send it personally, but it is nonsense. How in the world is it going to be possible for Nigeria to become a state sponsor of terrorism? It's an insult. A country, I would like to see those cheerleading for Niger cheerlead for their country for a change. Let us look at what is going on. The reason why we're able to actually even have this discussion and this debate is because we run our system based on a constitution, the constitution that protects our right to criticize government, to speak, the freedom of speech, freedom of association. Okay, where are the citizens in our neighborhood that are under military governments that are able to do that? They can't, because they don't even have a constitution at the moment to protect them. And we're not even saying that they have to have a constitution. They don't. If they want to run their country with a constitution, so be it.
But Minister, if the government feels this way, have you been able to reach out to that government, that military junta, to caution them of these malady, as you describe it? If that leader is making such a heavy allegation, a leader to leader, has there been a call to that leader to say, no, you cannot say this, and I take an exception to it, as a big nation on the continent, you cannot speak about our government like that? Has there been that kind of engagement? A stern warning to that country to say you cannot make those heavy allegations against our people?
We have done so. We called in the charge d'affaires here in Abuja, in the ministry, and addressed it appropriately. But it's not for President Tinubu to stoop down to start responding to spurious allegations. It's not the way diplomacy works. It's not the way governments and leaders relate to each other. We're not going to go into the gutter, And at the same time, don't forget that we're still trying as much as possible to find diplomatic avenues to resolve these issues. And we consider Niger Republic, we consider Burkina Faso, Mali, our kith and kin. And we want to continue to live in peace and harmony with those countries, with the citizens. This is just transient. This is a period where they're going through a period of military intervention. It's happened to us in the past. I said it on a different program. Someone like me, who was born just before Nigeria's civil war started, I spent... I didn't have the right to vote until I was in my 30s. So we know, people from my generation know the benefits of having a constitutional government running your system that way. And we remain committed to that constitution, because it's the same constitution that says that Nigeria, when it goes into treaties with other countries, it should honor those treaty obligations. And one such treaty obligation is that exists with our membership of ECOWAS. The same with these countries. So, it's not that we're just doing things to, but when we start speaking on behalf of Niger and all these other countries, and we're criticizing and denigrating our own country for doing the right thing, I don't think we are being fair to Nigeria. I think if we want to cheerlead for Niger, then we should also look at the ground rules and what exists and what we have committed This is what our constitution says.
Minister,
if we want, we seek to amend our constitution, then that's a different thing altogether.
Minister,
but for now, what the constitution says.
Minister, on a final note, and I'll take you back to China. Finally, if you can wrap up on this, there are issues of environmental impact. Many Chinese-backed projects have faced criticism for their environmental, the way they handle environmental impact on their projects here. And there are those who accuse some of the Chinese companies of how they've been able to allegedly manipulate the system to get along, especially in areas like mining. Recently, there were about 130 Chinese allegedly arrested for cyber crime in Abuja. That's in November. In October, about 3 Chinese were arrested for illegal mining. 103, some Chinese were included in about 193 people arrested 3 weeks ago over issues of money laundering and a host of other issues. And I know that these are a huge number of those nationals committing crime in Nigeria. Did that come up today? And how are you dealing with Chinese doing business here and exploiting the Nigerian system?
We're dealing with it by ensuring that we formalize all these activities, we get them to invest, we get them to establish supply chains in, for instance, a special economic zone that already exists. There are rules and regulations. You have government agencies that oversight activities in such special economic zones. Okay, a lot of it, what you're referring to, probably has to do with illegal mining. Nigerians themselves are engaged in illegal mining, so it's not just Chinese and several other nationals. So it doesn't make it right, but we shouldn't single out China to just say that everything they're doing is bad. Suffice it to say that Chinese citizens are doing more good than harm in Nigeria. You can't, they buy the eggs everywhere. It's a country of 1.4 billion people. So there are bound to be bad eggs, same way that we have our own bad eggs. But what they're doing in terms of investing in our economy, in terms of creating jobs, in terms of infrastructure, is something that is exceedingly beneficial to Nigeria in terms of creating jobs for our youthful population.
All right. Honorable Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much for the insight, and I wish you the very best. Suffice to say that since today you are welcoming your counterpart from China, you should get some sushi and perhaps get some Chinese rice tonight for a delightful dinner. Thank you so much indeed, Honorable Minister, for joining us.
That's Japan. Sushi is Japan, so I'll eat the Chinese rice.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, Minister.